for a limited time, $1 gets you full access to all the automotive industry news and content CBTNews.com has to offer. CBT News. Subscribe today. Welcome to CBT News with Bridget Fitzpatrick.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to CBT News. I'm Bridget Fitzpatrick. Thank you so much for joining us today. Here's Chris Riggins with today's top stories.
Thanks, Bridget. Starting off our coverage, White House officials believe that Toyota is, quote, fully committed to electrification after speaking with company representatives earlier this year. The president's senior advisor, John Podesta, met with two executives from the automaker's U.S. branch who reported that the brand had fully embraced EVs under its new CEO, Koji Sato. Podesta marked that although Toyota, quote, had been the laggard when it came to EVs, the brand's new leadership was determined to expand its lineup and compete with other major manufacturers. Up next, Honda continued to bounce back from its pandemic slump through April thanks to stable demand and better inventory. Last month's sales climbed nearly 25% year over year in the US to 116,082 units, driven by record-breaking EV deliveries. This total was slightly behind the 116,746 units sold in March, which was the automaker's best month since July 2021. Sales of the new 2023 CR-V topped 30,000 for the second month in a row, making it the brand's best seller in North America. The United Auto Workers Union is refusing to endorse President Biden's re-election campaign until the administration responds to several key issues with electrification. In a letter, the UAW's new leader, Shawn Fain, argued that automakers were taking government subsidies with, quote, no strings attached and no commitment to workers. The union chief also noted that the EV transition had resulted in a series of plant closures in Detroit, quote, turning the lives of staff upside down. In wrapping up our newscast, the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates once more, bringing them to the highest level since 2007, but indicated that further hikes may be unnecessary. On May 3rd, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said the possibility of another adjustment was uncertain, calling it, quote, an open question. Consumer prices increased on pace with forecasts during April, which also saw concerning developments in the looming banking crisis. With the federal funds rate now sitting at 5%, it remains to be seen whether inflation will finally cool down or if the move will force an economic slowdown. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next is Carl Brower, executive analyst for iSeeCars.com. We'll be right back.
Delivering the news dealers count on for 10 years. Subscribe today and join thousands of other automotive professionals. CBT News, 10 years strong.
The used car market has seen significant shifts and changes in recent times, with evolving customer preferences, technological advancements, and changing economic conditions. On this episode of Inside Automotive, we're pleased to welcome executive analyst for iSeeCars.com, Carl Brower, to provide his in-depth knowledge of the market's dynamic and competitive landscape. Take a look.
Talk to us about what is happening in the used car market today.
So it's fascinating. We saw over a 12-month period the average price of a used car being about 8.5% above the equivalent new car. These were slightly used cars, by the way, that we were defining as like 1 to 3 year old cars with around 13,000 miles. So we have this algorithm we look at. But when we classify a car as slightly used, we saw them that the average slightly used car was 8.5% above its new car equivalent. That's what it was a year ago. Now it's great, which was crazy that it ever even happened like that. It's a little less crazy in that now that same category of slightly used cars is 8.1% below their equivalent new car. So Jim, used cars aren't worth quite as much as new. Yay!
Wow, imagine that. Who would have thunk it?
Right, we've gone back to sort of some sanity here.
That's right.
But that's a nice swing because it was about $3,500 above MSRP when they were above, and now it's about $3,700 below. So you can actually negotiate down from MSRP on the average slightly used car now, and we think that's an overall healthy change, certainly for consumers. Now, dealers were doing really well. They weren't selling the volume that they'd sold, but they were making a lot of money on each unit they sold for a while there. And
Right.
now the market's going back to being a little more normal. I think their business model and how they sell and retail cars is probably a little more normal too, and what they expect. But that's a big shift. And
No question.
More specifically, what kind of cars have shifted and all. And we've seen electric vehicles shoot all over the place. I think they're modulating a little bit now, but then we're seeing things like hybrids and high value cars still priced above MSRP. The perfect kind of poster child for over MSRP, even in the used market, is the Ford Maverick. Okay, that car was extremely high value, low price, high utility, and it comes standard with a hybrid powertrain that gets you really good mileage when gas is kind of at still pretty high rates compared to a year and a half ago.
Sure.
So that car is hugely popular.
That's fantastic. So there must be some dealers out there that have felt the pinch with that kind of movement in the used car values over the course of the last year, right?
Well, that's, again, fascinating. So we've been watching these used car prices and prices in cars in general come down, but we were hearing reports of auction prices in the last, say, 60 days going back up again. And so it's like, okay, everyone was like, prices are going up in cars. Prices are going up in cars. It's like, no, auction prices are going up in cars. We're not seeing it on the retail side. Now, what does that mean, Jim? That means compression of what we were just talking about, profit. The dealers are having to spend more to get these cars because they're still relatively scarce. There's still not a million used cars out there that everyone's trying to unload. So they come up for auction, and the dealers are saying, hey, my lot's pretty empty now, and I need cars, and I have to pay a little more to get them. But they can still sell them for a profit, just not the level of profit they were selling them for a couple of years there during the pandemic. So that's what's happened. We're not seeing the retail price move up, but we did see auction prices move up.
All right, be sure to watch this interview in its entirety right here at cbtnews.com. That wraps up our show for today, but we invite you to join us back here again tomorrow morning for all the latest news and trends impacting the retail automotive industry. And be sure to follow us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Bridget Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
CBT News, your #1 resource for auto industry news and content. Join the #1 most watched newscast in the automotive industry. CBT News. Subscribe today.